Hey there, students. Thank you for being part of this presentation. My name is Luis Silva, and today we're looking at world history, British imperialism in India, 1858 all the way to 1947. During the age of imperialism, 1850 to 1914, European nations dominated Africa and Asia. During this era, no nation could match the industrial, military, or colonial power of the British. As you can see from this map here, you have European imperialism all over the world. You see that nations such as Great Britain, France, Belgium, Portugal, and many other nations had gained control of many regions around the world, including Africa, India, and Australia. And here you have a political cartoon of England controlling many areas around the world, such as Canada, Egypt, Jamaica, and many other nations. The nation of Great Britain had so many colonies that it was said that the sun never sets on the British Empire. As you can see here, all of the areas that are colored in purple are the areas that were controlled by the British. That's why there was the saying that the sun never sets on the British Empire. Among all of Britain's colonies, the most valuable colony was India. But how did India become the brightest jewel in the crown? After Vasco da Gama's discovery of a water route to India in 1498, Europeans' trade with India increased dramatically. As you can see from the map here, you see all of the trading routes that led all the way to India. This is from 1487 all the way to the 1700s. In the 1600s, Europeans gained a foothold in the Indian Ocean trade. Once again, you're welcome to pause this video, and you see all the movement of goods that were going basically all over the world, and how Europeans were able to control all the trade that was going on in the Indian Ocean. The British East India Company was formed to trade exotic Asian goods in Europe and the Americas. The East India Company set up trade posts in major port cities in India. By the 1700s, India's Mughal Empire was in decline, and small states ruled by Maharaja were formed. In addition to the decline of the Mughal Empire, there were also conflicts between the Hindus and Muslims, which further weakened India. The East India Company saw the situation, and they were able to take advantage and gain more control over India. The East India Company made huge profits creating plantations to harvest tea, coffee, cotton, and also opium. Raw materials like cotton helped fuel Britain's Industrial Revolution. In addition, opium was refined in India and smuggled into China. Opium addition and addiction helped the British gain access to Chinese trade. The East India Company sold cheap British-made textiles to the Indian people. From 1750 all the way to 1850, the British East India Company ruled most of India with little interference from Britain. To protect their trade and territories, British officials hired Indian soldiers called sepoys. But by the 1850s, Indian resentment for the British was growing. In 1857, rumors spread that sepoy gun cartridges supplied by the British were greased with pork and beef fat. Hindu and Muslim sepoys were outraged and rebelled against the British. The Sepoy Mutiny lasted for a year, and it was so bad that the British government had to send troops to help the East India Company. And here you have an image to the left hand side of the execution of sepoys. Very sadly, they were hanged, and people were not happy with the British anymore. The Sepoy Mutiny was a turning point in Indian history. In 1858, the British government took control from the East India Company and ruled India directly. British rule was called the Raj and lasted until 1947. Now, the British government made important improvements in India, including railroads, telegraph and telephone lines, roads, canals, dams, bridges. Britain also built schools, hospitals, irrigation projects, and also made medical improvements. So the British, when they got in there, they made significant changes to make sure that the Indian people were not so unhappy. And for some time, all of these improvements did work in the favor of Great Britain. British rule hurt the native Indian economy, further divided social classes, increased hostility between Muslims and Hindus. The British emphasis on cash crop plantations led to food shortages and famine in India. 7 million Indians died due to starvation in the year 1876. As you can see some of the images to your right, you see some of those effects of the starvation. And if you see the image to the left, you see how the British were very happy to be in India. India was not the only European colony in Southeast Asia. The Dutch East India Company gained control of the East Indies in the 1600s. The Dutch profited from rubber, tin, oil resources, and cash crop plantations. In the year 1840s, France seized control of Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, as well as Indochina. The French profited from rice plantations also. Now we have come to the end of this presentation. Please make sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next presentation.